We have Coach Montgomery right here on the set today. Coach, thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Glad to have you here. And you just picked up a win this weekend against Ferrum on the road.
I'm really happy about that. You know, it's a great, a great win for our football program and for our kids. And I feel very fortunate to get out of that with a win. It's tough to win on the road, let alone tough to win against a good football team like Ferrum.
And in the first game of the season, gets you
right
off on a good start.
And I think that going into our game, we had a lot of question marks. There's a lot of freshmen in key situations, and not on offense and defense, but in particular, snapping for punts. And our punter was a freshman, and we've got some guys in first-year starting positions, and they fared out real well last weekend.
Well, I know you're satisfied with a win, but what will be the things you will work on this week, especially since they pulled a little bit of a comeback there at the end?
Well, a team's biggest improvement should occur, between its first and second game, whenever you get a chance to evaluate your team under fire. And I know what you're referring to. You're referring to the end of the game, and I think there's a lot of things that happened right there. Number one is our team fell victim last year 5 times to not finish in the game. So, we talked about that in our staff meeting. We talked about that with our kids. I think when we went up by 19 points, there was a sense of, we won this game by our coaches, by our players, and you could see that by the fact that we started playing not to lose, and that'll really prevent you from winning. And then we made some key mistakes that gave them some momentum at the end of the game. To be honest with you, all that stuff's been addressed. I want to, then say that I think our kids did a great job at handling the different forms of adversity that they had during that game. It's a lot of those guys are first-year starters. First-year offensive and defensive coordinator. There was a big change there. Special teams coordinators changed. I'm coaching linebackers again. There's a big change, and I think that our kids handled that really, really well. Ferrum came out, and they are not a passing team, and they threw the ball more than we did, and we ran it more than they did.
Right.
So I think that the 80-20 rule, where we played against 20% of what we practiced against, and I think that you don't prepare for Ferrum as a passing football team, but I think our kids adjusted really well. They played hard. There's a lot of unity on our team. The attitude is upbeat, and everything that happened at the end of that game can be fixed, and that's being focused on.
And what about Joey Daniels? 2 key interceptions.
Oh, Joey's a great player.
Yeah.
Joey's a great player. He's a very silent leader. I don't know whether you know this or not, but he was selected for ODAC Player of the Week last week. He's unselfish. He does everything that a senior should do, and I couldn't be happier for Joe. And he'd be the first one to tell you that without the defensive rush and the drops of the linebackers and the whole unity thing, that that couldn't have happened. So. I feel Joey Daniels is coming up big for us this year.
Right. Well, Coach, tell us about last year versus Ferrum. I know Darren Vaught and I interviewed you on Thursday of last week. Can you tell us the difference between last year's Ferrum team and this year's Ferrum team, the differences you saw between the two teams at the beginning of the season, and why people may not realize how much harder this Ferrum team played or was better than last year's team?
Well, I'll just start out by saying that Ferrum finished their game on an upswing last year. Narrowly losing to North Carolina Wesleyan. They were in position to win the game, and they fumbled the ball on the goal line. All right, and North Carolina Wesleyan then drove the field and scored. As you know, North Carolina Wesleyan beat us last year. Then they went on to the playoffs and knocked off the #1 team in our region. And Ferrum should have beat them last year. Ferrum also, after that loss, I think Coach Davis, who I think is an awesome coach and friend, has taken, the Ferrum team and totally, hey, all right, these guys didn't prepare, and they started playing newer guys. Mike Van comes up, and they get that Marcus Mayo playing for them, and they get the the guys that played in their backfield at the end of last year were the guys that played against us this year. Okay, their offensive line is solid. They had a new defensive coordinator as well last year that, he couldn't corral the troops. Well, this year they played much better on defense against us. I'd compare number 25, Mike Van, to any running back in the league that we'd play against. I don't think there's a better one that we're going to play against this year. He's 5'10", 220 pounds, runs a 4.40, and when I walked down the field, he had my eye. So I think that Ferrum football program, I could be wrong, but I bet you that they're finished either 1 or 2 in their league this year, and they're going to be a handful for everybody that plays against them. So, last year they were trying to find themselves, and I think that, we had a blocked we ran a fake field goal against them. They dropped the kickoff, and we threw a score. We capitalized on 4 or 5 mistakes that they made last year, and then I think that they quit. And that's what happens whenever you score 50 points on a team like Ferrum. It's just they get their dauber down and they can't recover from it. Okay, this year they didn't quit, and they kept themselves in the game. And I give a lot of credit to the Ferrum football team and the football staff at Ferrum, because I knew that was going to be a big game for us, and there wasn't any question that I was nervous in the service all week long. So I'm proud of my kids. I think they hung in there and they beat a great football team. They'll prove that. Ferrum will prove that this year.
It would be really hard to say early on, but how would you assess your injury situation? Watching the first week of NFL, it's obviously in everybody's, the back of everybody's head, and I'm sure that injuries happen in football, but where would you assess your injury situation right now?
I think we're good right now. We're good. Jonathan Hawkins goes down with a rib injury. Their doctor tells him he can't play the rest of the game, so he didn't play, and what happened? Adrian Jordan got a chance to play. Greg Swafford got a chance to step up to the plate. Brian Furr hurt his hand. He ended up finishing the game. He's doing well. There's a couple little things like hamstring pulls and hip pointers, and you're going to have that in football. And the last thing you can ever do is use that as an excuse for anything. Because you're only going to be as strong as your bench, and anytime a young man goes down, I really feel like gives another kid an opportunity to move ahead. I feel bad for the kid, but you can't sit around and brood about it, or everybody else will. Right. So I think we're good right now. We're close to 100%. Anything
that I forgot to ask you, Coach, that you'd like to say to the viewers out here on EHC-TV?
No, just I really do appreciate all the support and the loyalty amongst the Emory and Henry alumni and all of our fans. They're awesome, and our kids are, the attitude of our kids is awesome, and all of our coaches that have made the different changes that they have to make to fulfill their roles have done a great job. And I'm very thankful to our college and its alumni for building the new Fred Self Stadium, and my friend Bob Johnson, who has been an unbelievable mentor and helping our whole athletic staff get things under control, and the leadership that he's given for this stadium has been unbelievable. And nowhere that I've ever been have they made a decision to build a stadium and then do it in 1 year.
Right.
Okay, that's awesome.
Right.
And my hat's off to Emory and Henry and everybody that supports it.
Well, can't wait to be seated in it, Coach, and can't wait to go and see next week's game against Greensboro. We appreciate having you on the show.